I have just bought next year's calendar, which means that this year is coming to an end. So I thought it would be appropriate to take a look back at some of the highlights of 2021. Which is proving quite difficult because this is the second year in a row notable for its lack of highlights. Yes, we are still in the very firm grip of a raging pandemic, and although legally I could have done quite a bit of travelling, I feel that the responsible thing to do is to avoid travel as much as reasonably possible. And so very early on I made it a personal rule that I wouldn't start travelling again until face masks were no longer mandatory on public transport and in hotels. From a purely selfish perspective, I really don't feel like sitting on a train for 6 hours in a face mask. Half an hour on the bus into town is quite bad enough, thank you. Anyway, the most surprising highlight of the year came when I published a video about a highway enclosure. This was just an experiment, which I would consider a success if the video performed better than average for my channel. Well, it was definitely a success, but I wasn't prepared for it to be this successful. Apparently, there's an awful lot of people out there who are really interested in large-scale civil engineering projects. I mean, okay, that's not a subject I know very much about, but good to know. Earlier in the year we had trouble with a raccoon, which led to me doing a little bit of research on the German raccoon population. This little fella made a few more appearances and once even made off with a sack full of plastic packaging that we'd put out for collection. But he doesn't seem to have been around for some months and we don't know if we'll ever see him again. My wife and I also came very close to accidentally buying illegal drugs when a supermarket chain started selling a range of products that were later found to contain THC. Incidentally, I'm not particularly interested in whether or not the new government succeeds in legalizing cannabis because I don't need it. At my age, you can very easily replicate the experience of being stoned simply by standing up too quickly. Some of you might remember the time I was honked at by a car in a pedestrian zone, and it's thanks to my self-imposed restraint during this pandemic that I'm forced to include this as a highlight. Well, I have to say that the situation doesn't seem to have improved. I've been there several times since, and there are still cars driving there illegally. And yes, I know that some of you will object and point out, quite correctly, that there are always exceptions. I know what the exceptions are, and I do know which cars are definitely not supposed to be there. A personal highlight for me, of course, was the election. This was the first German federal election that I was allowed to vote in, so now you can blame me. And without revealing who I voted for, I'd like to say that I'm cautiously optimistic about the result. I mean, time will tell, of course, but yeah, I feel reasonably confident. So, yeah, that's most of the highlights, basically. For the most part, I've been running a few experiments on my channel and got some interesting results, which I'm using to plan future videos. But in case you're worried that this means I'll be rebranding my channel and making videos about lumps of concrete, no, don't worry, nothing like that at all. If you haven't already done so, take a look at my video about Bad Homburg. This is more what I'm going to be aiming for once I start travelling again. And yes, I will start travelling again. I can't say when, and obviously I'm not an epidemiologist, but from what I've been reading about it, I'm quite confident that normality will return soon, even if at the moment it doesn't feel like it ever will. So it just remains for me to say thank you for supporting my channel for another year, thank you for your comments and likes, and I wish you all the best for 2022. Oh, and I've put all the videos that I mentioned in a special playlist which you can see if you click down there. So if you missed any of the highlights that I mentioned, that's where they are. Hey, I've just thought, do you think I could claim my calendar as a business expense? It's worth a try.